A Fox News alert. In about 1 hour, President Biden will be heading to Uvalde, Texas to meet with devastated families after last week's school massacre. His visit comes as investigators are probing whether the school's police chief had his radio when he ordered officers to stand back rather than go in and confront the gunman. GOP South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace is here in Charlotte, North Carolina with us this morning and joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to have you here in Charlotte. We'll talk about the race and your first time, you said, to a racetrack in just a moment. But let's pick up on this sad news. President Biden scheduled to go to Uvalde with this news that I don't know if the communications broke down, if the equipment broke down, if the equipment wasn't in hand, but something failed in the process of communicating what was happening inside that classroom.
Something failed miserably, and I hope that the president will not politicize this event, which is why it's so important that we get all the information and gather all the information before we really start talking about it. And there were stories that were coming out this weekend and yesterday about parents that were being arrested on site at the school who were just trying to rescue their kids. And the gunman was in the school for over an hour, we now learn. He was outside the school shooting for 12 minutes, and we're learning all these details. In fact, there was a mom who was arrested, got out of the handcuffs, jumped a fence, got in the school, got her two kids, and got out of there. So we have a lot of questions, I think, the community, and they deserve answers to those questions, and I hope that's where we'll focus on the days ahead and figure out what happened and why.
And that should be our focus, as you said, in the days ahead. And I agree with you. I hope we don't hear the president politicize this tragedy. But as we move beyond the initial investigation, do you think there are things that Congress can do in a bipartisan manner, whatever that may be, addressing school security? Are there things that Democrats and Republicans can come together on to try to stop what seems to be a growing tragedy?
Absolutely. But to find common ground, we have to find common sense. What we've seen in years past are either side politicizing a tragic event to their political gain. And that's not what needs to happen right now. I have two kids, one's in high school and one's in middle school. These are things that we care about. But there are things, for example, looking at criminal information. Why was this kid who was known to be shooting people randomly with a BB gun allowed to buy a gun legally? I think there are a lot of questions there, but most states don't keep criminal information, crimes that people committed, in one database. We should be able to know what's going on. There should be a threat matrix, for example. There's ways to harden schools as well, where you're talking about bulletproof doors or bulletproof glass. There are things that we can do looking at the issue and coming together, finding common ground with just a little bit of common sense. I was just part of an active shooter alert bill that we unveiled in D.C. just 2 weeks ago. I've learned also recently in the last couple of months, another bill that I'm on, but the FBI and federal agencies, when they're communicating with law enforcement agencies, they can only communicate by a fax machine. So this is 2022. We have the technology and the means electronically and otherwise to communicate. Why are we using a fax machine only to communicate criminal information about criminals, people committing crimes?
Especially in light of the communications failures there in Uvalde. What it seems like early in the investigation, communication failures. Speaking of communication failures and speaking of President Biden, there was this moment where he was speaking at a naval graduation for the Naval Academy, and he said that North Korea stood with us when we imposed sanctions on Russia. Of course, North Korea did not stand with the United States of America. I don't know if they've ever stood with the United States of America. What do we read into the president's? It would be nice if this were the first time, but it's not. So what do we read into the president's mistakes?
Well, he should go to the DMZ between North and South Korea and see where they actually stand. On the world stage, we look weak, and the world is strong only when America is strong. We need a president who isn't going to whisper into his microphone in front of future leaders of this country. We need someone who's going to be serious, who's going to be strong, who's going to be stable and steady. And that's what our country needs right now, and that's what the world needs right now. And we've got to stop this far-left partisanship, and we really have to come together, because whether you're talking about the border and immigration, shooting in our schools, Ukraine, Afghanistan, there are so many issues facing our country right now, and all we're doing is dividing us rather than unite us. And where we agree, that's where we should be working together.
So I know you grew up in a military family. Your father, retired brigadier general. You grew up or born at Fort Bragg here in North Carolina. And here you are with us. As I said, it's your first time to a track.
First time here to the track.
And it's a special race. It's not just any race. This is the one where they honor, and there's a picture, I believe, of your father on the screen right now. Where they honor those who we have lost in service of this country. And I don't know if you know this or you've been made aware, every windshield honors a service member who's been lost. What are your thoughts on this Memorial Day?
That's amazing. We would not be able to celebrate this Memorial Day or our country or our freedom without the sacrifices that our men and women in uniform have made throughout history, throughout throughout our lifetime. And so I'm so grateful. My father served for 28 years. He was an Army Ranger, and he was the first one to command the Army Ranger Training Brigade and is in the Ranger Hall of Fame. We have family, most of our family are in the military. I have a family member deployed to Eastern Europe right now, missed the birth of his son. And so I'm really grateful for the service that each of them do for all of us.
Well, we're grateful you got up early. I know you did, and made it up here to the track in Charlotte. And we're glad to have you on Fox and Friends.
Thank you so much.